One of the things that I'm really fascinated by is the reticular activating system. I love using that word.
it almost sounds dirty, but it's
not.
a fascinating
how your brain
thing.
works.
It is how the brain works.
And basically, I don't remember the figure, but there's a huge amount of information coming at us at all times.
Yes.
People talking, noise, sound, sight, touch, temperature, all of our 5 plus 6 sense coming at us all time, and our brain can't process it.
Exactly.
So we train our brain then to only see certain things.
Exactly.
And the story I always talk about is, my husband and I are driving down the expressway. He'll see every 1950s car on the road. I don't see any.
Yeah.
Because he's trained his mind to pick up that information. Mm-hmm. Is that some of what you use?
Yeah, and a lot of it is just knowing what to look for. Like there's the classic. I love Sherlock Holmes. I've loved him ever since I was a kid, and the new BBC show Sherlock is just like a total joy fest. It appeals to me as an adult. It would have appealed to me as a kid. It's just awesome on every level. And in one of I think they used this line in one of the recent episodes. But there's a line from the books and the movies where Sherlock sees something and he points it out, or when someone says, how did you see that? How did you notice that? And he says, because I was looking for it. Or someone says, why didn't I see that? And he says, because you weren't looking for it.
And that's a little trick somebody had told me about too. Mm-hmm. When you lose your keys, you're like, I can't find my keys. And instead if you go, I see my keys.
Yes.
All of a sudden you can.
Okay, I'll tell you a quick story, which is wonderful. This is my grandfather's pocket knife. I inherited it last year. It's one of my most prized possessions. Unless I fly, I take it almost everywhere. Okay. And I lost it a couple months back, right around my birthday, and I was so upset because it was gone for like a day and a half. I had no idea, and I was driving down the road, not even thinking about it. But there was something, I was listening to a podcast, and there was something on it that jogged my memory about the old Twilight Zone episodes. I was like, oh yeah, Twilight Zone. Oh yeah, there was that one episode, Nightmare at 30,000 Feet. Oh yeah, that's on the new box set I got. And then I realized I opened the box set cellophane with this when I came home, and I went over to where I was sitting, and I placed it on the windowsill, but the curtain was open, and then later I had closed the curtain. So, and I turned the car around, drove 4 miles back home, pulled and there it was, sitting right there. So I had to read my own mind.
I think that's exactly what happened, but that's kind of what intuition does too.
Oh yes.
Is that it's putting those connections together.
Yeah, finding those connections, absolutely. And a lot of it, but the other thing too, which I'll talk about briefly, because it does apply into magic and what you mentioned earlier about attention and direction and misdirection.
Right.
The classic term in magic is misdirection. It's not the hand that's quicker than the eye, it's that you're watching the wrong hand. I was looking over there, something happened over there. But to me, a good magician doesn't misdirect, he directs. He doesn't take your attention away from something, he puts it towards something.
Okay.
And there's something known as an in-transit action. Like let's say my phone's on a table and it rings. Well, I would pick it up. But the in-transit action, I picked up the phone, but the in-transit action is me moving the knife from hand to hand. And that's what happened. I put the knife down to peel the cellophane back and pull the DVDs out of the case. It was in a big slip case. And then I put them out on the shelf. And because this was the in-transit action, I forgot it. And there's a lot of magic that I find extremely fascinating because it's all about those moments where it's all covered by another action or something more noticeable. Like a perfect example, is if I point out like the little Swiss Army symbol. There's the tweezers on this side, the toothpick on this side. There's a lot of different things about it. And when I do that, I'm drawing all this attention to this, and now when I come back to look at you, you've been bored with this for a good 10 to 15 seconds, and you'll take any excuse to look at me, which means I can then just take out the tweezer right at that moment as I look at you. So a lot of it is just structure.